Hello and welcome to part 17 of the UBIK solution. In this video we're going to continue and see if we can refine the way the shoulder rotation is set by from the hand's position relative to your head. And if you remember from the last video, it kind of made a little snap when you were circling your hand above your head, and once you got back again doing a full circle over your head, it would make this little snap back. So I'm going to try and put together some logic that will eliminate some of that snapping, but not completely, but it's going to make it a little bit better. And this is the current way I decided to do it, but I'm sure there are different other ways to go around this. Anyway, so let's try and let me try and explain this. If you have your character looking directly from the front, and you have your chest here, or your shoulders. When you move your hand above your head inside this area here, then you don't want to have too much influence. So if we kind of split up our character into a set of quadrants or kind of squares here, and then define, say, if your hand is out here, so if your hand is circling, you can't see it on the webcam, but if your hand is way out here, then you probably want the chest to be affected, and that means if we just give them some colors, you probably want it to be kind of full effect if you move your hands around in this area here. If you move your hands around in an area around your chest or anything below actually your head, then basically or mainly you want the hands effect position to be full in effect. So somewhere in between here, it's going to happen something. So it's going to be gradually smaller once you reach this area within here. So if you have your hand directly into some kind of a sweet spot here in here, then you don't want it to be very take too much effect. That's kind of what I decided to try and build here, because it seems like this approach here really eliminates most of the snapping, but not all of it. But it's the best I could come up with so far. So I'm gonna explain how I built this really in this video here, and yeah, this is kind of what I mean by that. Well, so let's get to it. Oh, one thing I need to say before we leave this. So in order to do this, what we actually need here is to have a way of determining where the head is. So if we just for a moment, I just want to pick a blue color. So what I'm gonna do is try and find this position here on the top of your head, and because when you look at your character or yourself, when I tilt my head down, that point is going to be kind of in the back of my neck, back of my head. So we have to rotate that point once we have that point, according to the pitch of your head as well. So I hope I explained that okay. So let's see, we have to for one thing, I think we're gonna do this in just world space. I think it's okay. So we're gonna get the head effector here, and we're gonna add or first of all we're gonna split this, and then we're gonna add in the plus vector plus something, and that plus something is gonna be, I think I'm gonna switch it around, and we're just gonna put it down here to begin with. so we have a point here, and you know, let's see, this point here, this point we could turn it into headspace and then back again, but I think what I'm going to do instead, because I want to have a point in, let's see, could this be in, because I have the hand effector here in world space. Well, you know what? I'm pretty sure this can be done in a different space, and it will give the exact same result. But for now, I'm gonna do it in world space. So what we are gonna do is keep track of the difference between the hand and the head point, or the top of the head. So that is going to be something here. We're going to promote to a variable and call this top head. Okay, so the top head we don't have currently. That is what we're going to end up constructing here. But anyway, what we're going to do with this top head is that we're going to pass it into the head, get head angle. Jesus. So I'll call this what is this, hand head delta. Let's just call it that. Because that hand head delta is going to be used to determine how we will react. So if we I think break this vector here, and then because we're going to do two things, we're going to work with the x and the y, and what I mean by that is we're going to if you kind of look at this person here from the top, also there's going to be a like a circle. I don't know why I drew a square here, but it's going to be a circle looking at him from the top here. So once you have your hand out here, it's going to be this. It's going to be this green color. So it's going to be green, meaning it's going to have have effect. And once you get closer to the center, it's going to be not. It's not going to have so much effect. So we're going to lerp between these areas here. So that is going to be the x and the y, and then we're going to do something different with the c. So let's do a vector length. No, it's not called vector length. Y and C. What the hell? Vector length. Oh. So X and the Y here. And that will give us a value that tells us how far out our hand is in the x and the y plane. So we're going to map this clamped onto a range, and I'm going to give it 20, and I'm going to explain these values a little bit. 0 and 1, and then we're going to add this together with another weight here in a moment. I think I'm just gonna put this up a little bit. Like this. And then we're also gonna take this here I'm gonna map this to another range and type in -20, maybe -10 actually, and then 10, and then this is the other way, this way, and this is going to give us a another weight. And so we add these two together, and then we just get the get the average between these two. So I realize this is not perfect, but it's gonna have to do. So let's see. We have the angle here, and we get this here. Okay, so we have to insert a branch here to check if this is actually if the up and down. So yeah, so if the value is above, or it's equal to 1, if this one here is outputting 1, then it means it's below the head, or the head point, assuming the head point is going to be here. Then -10 is going to be kind of somewhere at nose level. So if the hand is below that point, then we absolutely we want to use let's see, alpha 1, alpha O. Then we want to use the entire effect from the hand's position. That's what I'm trying to figure out here. Yeah. So if this is equal to 1, and we might revisit this part here. I'm not too happy about this. I have to be honest and say, so if this is equal to 1, then we're gonna add in a, whoops, not a dispatcher, a variable. Call it alpha. And in that case, we're gonna set alpha equal to 1. That means it's gonna be full in effect. Actually, let's not do it this way. I like it differently. Select float 1. Otherwise, use this. And then set this. Okay, so that means it's going to set an alpha for us here. So if it's not equal to 1, then it's going to use the average from up here with these key values. So 20 is in the X and Y. So if you are inside 20 centimeters and above your head, it's basically going to be very low, this value here. So it's going to be we're going to tweak this a little bit, because I'm thinking maybe I shouldn't add in this part here. Anyway, well, we're going to try that. But anyway, once you're outside 50 centimeters, so that would be somewhere out here, then it's going to start gradually to take more and more into effect. And eventually it's going to be more or less 1 or close to 1, and then it will have a full effect. But that's only if you have your hands above your head. That's the general idea anyway. So what we also need to do is to actually perform that that blend here between whatever we come out with. So we have an alpha value here, so we have to do a lerp here. So the lerp is going to be controlled by this new alpha value that we just calculated, and B is going to be this, and then this is going to go in here, and then A is, we're going to leave that at 0. So that means it's going to loop gradually back to 0, depending on this alpha here. And I'm thinking, again, there are several ways to improve this to make it less snappy by, for example, adding in a interp instead. That could also be a good idea maybe, but nevertheless, we're just gonna leave it for now as it is. So that didn't look better. Anyway, let's go out again because we need to now put something into this hand head delta. That's what we really wanted, and that in this case needs to be this one, this value here. And remember, we haven't calculated the L top head yet, but we're going to do that in a moment. We're just going to finish this part up here. Move this over a little bit. Drag that in, and there we go. Okay, so the L top head is what we're gonna focus on now. So we just need a bit more space. So this is in world space, and I am just gonna think here. So we're going to keep this in world space. So we are going to rotate this vector here, whatever vector here, rotate. And that rotated vector is what we're going to add into the head location. Yeah. And can we do this differently? Can we do it like this maybe? Oh, it's gonna cross anyway. Never mind. And whatever vector now when I feed into this is going to be somewhere above our head and a little bit back. And I'm going to return to why I want it to be a little bit back. But, well, the perceiving point is going to be kind of here at the front of the head, but that is going to be that way because we are displacing the body a little bit backwards as well. So maybe you need this, maybe you don't, depending on how you implement this. Currently I'm not actually sure we need it, but we'll see. Vector up. I'm just gonna build it and then maybe I think I'm gonna leave one part of this open. So now, first of all, we're gonna take the up part here. So it's gonna be something 15 centimeters or so. It's going to be a suitable place above your head, above your tracking point, which is going to be somewhere at jaw level maybe, kind of in the middle of your head. And then, whoops, what just happened? I think I clicked something. Plus a vector forward times and then make another literal, and for now we're just going to leave it as 0. And that is what we're gonna use as the top offset. I think that this is correct. Yeah. Let's try it out like this. So set this here, here. Okay, so I think it's time to test it out and see if this works. Right. So as you can see now, the hands, the left and the right hand, it's affecting the chest rotate or the shoulder rotation in the middle. This one here, the yellow ball. And if I move my head above my head, just above my head, it's not. You can see the rotation is barely noticeable. And if I circle my hand, it's not really doing anything. If I reach my hand out here, you can hopefully see it rotates the red arrow here. This one rotates, but once I'm in here, it doesn't rotate really. And so it does make this little here, you can see there's a little bit of a snap, and if you can kind of hit some edge case as well, but generally it's making it. Yeah, here you have one. Well, you can make it do some weird things, but yeah, and here you have another one. So we're gonna smooth this out later on, but for now this is what we're gonna work with. And you can see it happens when I put my hand really close to the chest, and it does this. And again, you could maybe I haven't done this, so I'm not really sure it's a good idea. But I'm thinking. Actually, maybe it's simpler just to say. Just for a moment, let me try just bypass all this stuff here. So I'm not looking at the C direction anymore. So when I have my what? When I have my hands close to the chest, the hands movement doesn't affect them. But once they reach further out, you can see it starts to have an effect. This may actually be better. I'm not entirely sure, because I haven't tested this out yet. But it has the same effect on the upper body as well. But it doesn't have this issue with the snapping when you try to like put your hand very close to your chest. What we could maybe also improve this with is to say if it's below we could do we could do something else. We could say maybe so completely ignore the C. No. You know what? I'm gonna maybe return to this. Actually, for now, I'm gonna leave this inside the code that I'm gonna commit. But if you want to, you can also try and see if you can improve this yourself, or you can connect this one up here. So I'm gonna leave this, comment this, and say this was my original logic to use as and that basically means that currently we are not looking at this at all. Anyway, that is really all I had for this video here. As you might have noticed, the elbow is doing weird stuff. I'm gonna have a look at that in the next video, I think, so we have a little bit better working elbow. And then finally, I think we are getting close to the point where we can start to add in some skeletal mesh stuff. So stay tuned and see you in the next.